What game destroyed you emotionally? I beat the Mass Effect Trilogy for the first time last night, and I'm still emotional from it. I haven't been this upset over a game since Metal Gear Solid 4. So I'm wondering what games emotionally destroyed you. Edit, I discovered today a mod for Mass Effect 3 that gives you a proper happy ending, and it still tore me apart. The Walking Dead from Telltale. But also, which probably a little bit less popular, Titanfall 2. Besides, its sad ending, what Bobby did to prevent Titanfall 2's success was also sad. Titanfall 2 was probably the best single-player experience I've had in like 10 years. Got it from PS Plus and played it through way too fast. I may or may not have shed a tear at the end. Does TF2 require playing TF1? No, you can jump straight to TF2. Gosh, TWD. Remember playing them one at a time when they went out back in the days. Don't know how it is nowadays to be able to go through all chapters in one go. What a game. I miss the good old Telltale. Friendly reminder to play all 4 seasons of the game. It ends absolutely beautifully. Does it? I only stopped at S2E1. Heard a lot of negative reviews about the rest of the seasons, so I didn't continue. I guess I should do that now that I have a computer that can run TWD. Yes, I was a broke student with TWD on low setting everywhere. I think there wasn't much that could compare to the end of Season 1. The rest were good, but not that good. I feel like the emotional gap between TWD and Titanfall 2 is enormous. TWD was my first thought as well. Each episode had a gut punch somewhere. The ending almost broke me. Did you finish all the seasons? If you haven't finished the final season, I 100% recommend doing so. In many ways, the final season is even better than the first season, and an incredible end to the journey, and a lot of fans have just never played it. I have, although I never finished Michonne, never watched the show, so I just wasn't invested after seeing Clementine's story to the end. The very, very last bit was a change of tone in a good way, but most of that final episode was trauma after trauma. Walking Dead did actually ruin me. Cried a lot in that game. Friendly reminder to play all 4 seasons of the game. It's absolutely worth playing till the end, as it ends beautifully. Played them all. Amazing. Can you elaborate on what Bobby did? I played the game, but have zero clue what you mean. The release date cucked the game hard 7 days after COD Infinite Warfare and 7 days before Battlefield 1. Thanks. Kotick, what'd he do? Clementine will remember that. I never get tired of upvoting this answer when this question is asked again. The Walking Dead is the game that first showed me that video games could be a valid platform for storytelling as art. More than once, the game moved me to tears, and the ending was a seriously healthy set of weeping. I still get the warm and fuzzies thinking about the game, and probably always will. Walking Dead so much, so I had look at gamers' vids for the first time to see if I was having a breakdown, or it really was a work of art. Original Telltale team, I take my hat off to you for making me cry and walk away from my office for days. Each time I thought of said scene for years, it got to me playing a computer game, and by crying, I mean deep crying. That game and the choices live with me today, and I am an old man who is not affected by games. Detroit Become Human. So many branches of that game are devastatingly tragic. Lots of crying playing it. This one, I can confirm, is underrated because of the branching storylines. Many people won't ever witness or experience some of the most powerful moments. This one is really kind of a slow burn because the moment-to-moment experience seems slow, but it can build on itself magnificently before you even know it. I would say all the performances from all characters were great, and the visual tech really helps elevate it. Hope we get a sequel or spin-off of some sort. I wonder what Quantic Dream are working on now. +1. Connor and Hank's storyline was totally my favorite one, but I really like that the game touched multiple important topics so everyone can find something for themselves. I also love the number of edge case scenarios. That's why I cannot hate the OG Indigo Prophecy. It was wonky, but it walked so Detroit could fly. My husband walked in during one scene and wound up teary-eyed in spite of not knowing the whole story. It's very poignant at times. I started down a path that led to an ending where my characters were going to be destroyed in a camp. I ugly cried, then reverted the save far enough back that I wouldn't get anything but the good ending. Agreed. I let the little girl die off the start and wondered why I was missing like 30% of the trophies when I finished. Came here for this and Outer Wilds. The scene where you finally realize what's up with the little girl, chills. The scene where Marcus et al. Are surrounded and cornered and losing. Always choose Sing, always. I've never ugly cried so hard. Soma, I didn't catch that until last year, but wow, what a mindfuck. Spiritfarer for different reasons. Miss you every day, Gran. Soma was the only game I've played where the consequences of my choices actually got to me. It's like every other game in that whatever you choose doesn't really affect the game at all, but in Soma, it really messes with your head anyway, especially early on when you don't really know what's going on and you're forced to choose life and death a few times. What a mind job. Oh, Spiritfarer is such a beautiful game. One of the most emotionally impactful of all time for me. I just finished it today. It was amazing. One of my favorite games that I have 100%. Did you win the coin flip? Fuck, that concept hit me hard. I thought I did at first, but by the end, I realized I had lost the flip and didn't figure out until it was way too late. God damn, that ending hung around in my brain for weeks. It was never a coin flip. You were never making onto the arc. That's what I meant by learning it too late. And yet that's what we all hoped for. Also, please spoiler mark your comment. This person, video games, came here to say Spiritfarer, but Soma is one of my favorite sci-fi stories ever. Soma is a masterpiece in my book. It's so immersive, atmospheric, and leaves you thinking about it even when you stop playing the game. I was really underwhelmed and disappointed by the bunker. It just feels so basic in comparison. The ending of Soma just disturbed me more than anything. At first, I thought I got the bad ending, but then I realized that's just it. It kind of left me feeling hollow for a while. Wow, wasn't expecting someone to mention Soma. It's the reason behind my username. The Mushroom Kid hit me the hardest, but many of those stories I related to, especially since I work in medical myself. I want to play Soma, but can't get past the dumb way you have to turn the camera to open and close doors and drawers and such. I don't have to turn my head IRL to open doors, and it's really disorienting to me. Does anyone know if there is a way to fix this so I can actually enjoy this game that sounds otherwise amazing? Side note, Spiritfarer's soundtrack is amazing. I still listen to it, and it's been almost 3 years since I last played it. Fucking Soma, I played that for the first time tripping on acid. What a time that was. Just finished Spiritfarer on Friday. It unzipped me and was a blubbering mess the rest of the day. Mass Effect. I'm replaying it now for the first time in over a decade and just had 2 really hard conversations with NPCs last night on the Citadel. One was a widow and her brother-in-law arguing over getting treatment for her unborn child, as its father had a rare heart disease, and the conversation got a little too real. The other was related to the sole survivor background, with a woman who had been a slave for 13 years since she was 6, and I was trying to talk her down from killing herself. And, I remember how hard that decision on Vermeer was the first time. Mass Effect 2, the Overlord DLC was heartbreaking. I'm making it a priority once I get to ME2 on the replay. Mass Effect 3, whatever you do, don't look up what happens if you choose the Geth over the Quarians. This game is riddled with potential emotionally destructive cutscenes, and you have to get through all of it, depending on your choices. 2 former crew members were especially hard-hitting when they made the ult. Immate sacrifice. Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, the end scene outside of the Animus. I had just beat ME2 that year and had grown accustomed to being able to talk my way out of violence. I didn't care what the clues pointed to. No part of me wanted to use my hidden blade on that character. Uncharted 3. The game got me good with a death fake-out at the end if the game and I lost my cool on the enemies in front of me. Halo 4. After over a decade of replaying the campaigns repeatedly, I was not ready to say goodbye. The final scene between Chief and Cortana completely wrecked me. Halo Reach. It was about a decade after beating the game the first time and being fairly unfazed by everyone's deaths, but Chorge. I was replaying the game not long after watching the Season 1 finale of Final Space for the first time, and the mission Lone Wolf finally hit me like a truck. Probably influenced by my emotional state, but it got me good. The Last of Us. The prologue. I had to put it down the day after that sequence. At the time, I had been watching and rewatching my favorite show that featured two very important women to the main character's life, named Sarah and Ellie. That game hit way harder because of it. The Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom, what happens to Zelda and when you do eventually save her were both huge emotional moments for me, having loved the series since my first time playing. I accidentally chose wrong with the Geth versus Quarians, and I knew what would happen, and I have never ninja moved so fast as I did to shut the console down, so I didn't have to see my Shep's little sister Tali react. Nope, not gonna do that to my heart. This scene and Solas's sacrifice to save the Krogans had me in shambles. I've considered playing through the trilogy again, but damn, I'm reluctant. It had to be me. For me, I didn't realize how impactful that choice would be. And after that happened, I realized I've played for too many hours without saving to undo it. That made the end so hard for me, as Tali always was my favorite. Little sister? You mean his space waifu? I did the same thing and had to Alt F4. I had romanced Tali as well, and would have been very upset if I couldn't go back and make the correct choice. I cried when I had to kill Marauder Shields in my ending. Very emotional. YME is the greatest series. The writing and acting is phenomenal. Does this unit have a soul? Chokes me up, and fuck hearing had to be me. Someone else might have gotten it wrong. The entire Overload story leaves a very bad taste in your mouth. I was playing Renegade, and even knowing it's a game, I felt genuinely disgusted by my choices. Quiet please, make it stop. The fact that pistol whipping the scientist is a paragon option says it all. Great writing, such a great series. Does this unit have a soul? Never in my life, man, absolutely bricked me. Had to walk that one off. I teared up a bit at I would have enjoyed doing experiments on those seashells. Does that favorite show happen to be Chuck? Sure is. Fantastic show. Read the names and did a double take. I just finished replaying the entire Mass Effect series, after a decade too, through the Legendary Edition. I remembered about Geth versus Quarians in ME3, and cheated a bit by looking up what conditions had to be met to save both, and made sure I met them. It was a combination of needing to have done certain things in all three games, and a series of reputation persuasion checks. I missed the series as soon as I finished it, and wanted to keep playing something similar. So I started a replay of Mass Effect Andromeda as well. But the difference in quality is obvious. Heck, that explains why I'd forgotten all about Andromeda's storyline in just a few years, while I still remembered most of the main trilogy's plot a decade later. I'd argue to look it up. Or rather, I wish that I had looked it up because I took Geth, and what happened as a consequence felt out of nowhere. I didn't expect something like that. Maybe I was not in my right mind due to playing obsessively the whole night trying to finish the game. On top of that, I had forgot to save for a long time, so ultimately, I had to just move on. I would have loaded the save and done it all again. Gears of War 3, Dom. RDR2 has been one of the most immersive and emotional stories in a game for me. I truly experienced the game, and I really felt a connection and a deep sympathy for Arthur. Even though the ending was inevitable, the creators captured it so beautifully and compellingly that it genuinely left me emotionally affected. Not a game, but damn. Final Space had a nice ending for Season 1. How all those short clips who were funny the first time now suddenly felt so different was amazing. Sad it got cancelled. The moment that Zelda said, "Link, protect them all. Tears in my kingdom. Halo 4 Cortana is best Cortana." I'm playing the Mass Effect Trilogy for the first time. I'm trying my hardest not to look things up when dealing with choices I need to make. Your post saying about make sure you don't look up the future choice when choosing Geth or Quarians will have me wanting to look it up when it arrives. I just started Mass Effect 2, so I'm not very far into the story. I really want to just play regularly and make choices based on my opinion and who I am, but I keep worrying I'll make some wrong decision in the end, and it might fuck my game up and end the story too early. Then I end up looking it up, like at the end of 1, and you have to choose to save the council or not. I found myself not being able to just pick my choice and sticking with it. I looked it up and of course saw that if you save them, you will get an additional army or whatever in number 3. What do you suggest? Just telling myself to go with my real choices and playing it out? Can that ruin my playthrough if I pick something wrong? Or is there just a few spots I need to worry about? So cheat on those only and play the rest naturally. I don't know. I know what the answer should be, really. But just thought I'd check your opinion. I don't want to get to the end and finding out I can't save the universe because of some choice I made in number 2. I looked up a guide for ME2's final mission, and I do recommend that option. Anything else, unless you know about the God of Assault Rifles in ME3 and want to recreate it, you'll probably enjoy the series more if you experience it yourself firsthand. Do look up that build when you get to ME3 though. I hear it's hilariously effective. Nier Automata. Final ending broke me. I made the sacrifice with no regrets. I'm crying very seldom, but this had me in tears. I didn't, all the progress gone, but also haven't touched the game since then. Same here. Though mostly because I want to 100% it first, and yeah, I haven't touched it since. Yeah, but like 8 times finding out the secret behind the robots and their memories, the different endings and what they all mean. Even the lore on the weapon descriptions become tragic when you realize who and what they refer to. And then the final true ending takes all of that and is like, y'all want to hurt more? Okay, take this. Nier Replicant, for me personally, Automata is a close second. Nier Replicant's ending E is genius. It's the best and worst ending possible at the same time. On one hand, you literally doomed humanity. There is no way to save it now and you killed billions. On the other, all of your friends are fine. You have completed your journey and everything is great. The Immel storyline that persists between both entries, Jesus Christ. I played Nier Automata and Horizon Zero Dawn back to back. That was rough. I did Nier Automata, Nier Replicant, Doki Doki Literature Club, and Evangelion in a time span of 3 months. Do not make the same mistakes I did. Yes, both Automata and Replicant. There is a cutscene in Replicant that I've seen at least 30 times, and it still destroys me every time. Jealous, I liked the game, but not enough to beat it a few more times. It's not beating the game more times. Every playthrough is completely different from the other. I would highly recommend going back to your save file and doing endings B if you haven't. It's more like a second half of the game more than a new playthrough. I got all the endings in that game, and I totally forget what the story was about. Nier Automata is the perfect from bad to worse video game, and I wouldn't have it any other way. When 2B is looking for 9S and City Ruins, Rays of Light, starts playing, the game captures the feeling of loss beautifully. And I don't even like 9S. Fuck yes. Killing Pascal was really emotional. To the moon. To this day, I still feel upset about what happened to River and how she will never know the truth. I remember trying to explain to my wife why I was crying over a video game, and it was hard to articulate it, but that was the crux of it. I was surprised the amount of people who consider the ending as a happy ending didn't feel like that to me at all. It's only somewhat happy for Johnny, but it's essentially a white lie. There is no happier ending possible. All of the tragedy already happened. The best they could do is let him die happy. It's an incredibly sad ending, but in the context of the story, it's also a happy one. That's what makes it so heart-wrenching to me. Yes, like, okay, it's fixed for Johnny, but ugly howling man crying for about a good hour in this one. That game broke my heart. Fuck you for reminding me of it. It is okay to feel. The sequels are just as good, IMO. It is a really special series. I didn't know there were sequels. Finding Paradise and Imposter Factory. Finding Paradise will probably hit. Imposter Factory maybe not so much, but it's still really good. The second one is probably my favorite, but they all are incredible. There is a new one coming out soon, and I believe it's supposed to conclude the series. No, I can't. Every time I think about To the Moon, I start tearing up. Only one game has ever made me ugly cry, and that was it. I played it once, and I refused to touch any of the sequels. If you're here, everything's all right. Finding Paradise goes in a different direction and really touches on different ideas. I like it more than To the Moon, Taba, but only barely. You can really see how Freebird developed as a studio between the two games. Imposter Factory already out. Is there another? The Beach Sode was originally going to be another mini-sode, but it became longer than they planned. And they have stated that it will bring at least some sense of finality to the story. Nice. Hope they're able to finish faster than they did with IF. I think it's supposed to be soon. although also not as long as the main 3, somewhere in between a mini-sode and a main game. Probably 3 or so horrors. Also 2 comic books. Yes, worse than anything else I've ever played, and I 100% was not expecting it going in. Made me cry for 3 days. What's this from? To the Moon is name of the game, is on Steam. Oh, never heard of it, but I don't have Steam. I'll see if it's on anything else. It's on Switch and everything else, I think. I just finished playing this series yesterday, and holy fuck, I'm glad I did. I could have spent $40 on Helldivers 2, but didn't want to play Server Queue Simulator, so I instead spent $40 on what ended up being some of the best games I've ever experienced. As long as you're here, everything's alright. Finished this game at like 3 a.m. and it absolutely destroyed me. Doubly so because it reminded me so much of my girlfriend that it almost felt made for me specifically. What's To the Moon? Freebird Games /To the Moon / Rakuin from Laura Shigihara, the singer-composer of Everything Is Alright song on To the Moon, also hits in the guts. Ori 2. After 2 beautiful and amazing games, the ending hits hard. Silent Hill 2, Mary's Letter, MGSV, Shining Lights, Even in Death, RDR 2. Mary's Letter is such a good and powerful ending to the game. Dude, that mission in MGS5 absolutely did it for me. I spent over 13 years in the army, and I've lost a buddy or two. That fucking mission, while I wasn't full-on bawling, had my lip quivering, and I'm not ashamed to say I shed a couple of tears. I knew it was just a video game. These people aren't real, it's just ones and zeros, but it took me a long time to pull the trigger. It's a stroke of fucked up genius. It's Kojima's signature flavor. Go through the game stockpiling mercenaries who cheer you on when you run around Mother Base, and thank you for CQCing them, and then force you to take them out for the greater good. Even Quiet's last mission fucked me up a bit. She sacrificed being around people to save Venom's life, which really means something if you think about the context of their situation. We don't hear enough about the Ori games. Masterpieces, both of them. The beginning of the first Ori game wrecked me so hard, I never continued with the series. That mission is a masterpiece, this war of mine. If you want all joy sucked out of you, play it with the Little Ones DLC. Played it once with that, and through all sorts of miracles my group survived. Never playing again, as I know I won't be so lucky. They survived, but at what cost? To save the little ones, anything. War is hell. No, war is war and hell is hell. And of the two, war is a lot worse. That game definitely hits the feels. I've often thought of trying it again, but I don't think I'm strong enough. I don't think I could stomach playing that game. I like sad moments in games, but I like to have some hope and happy moments in there too. Too much on one side makes it too childish or too dark. I like a happy medium. I like to have some hope. Well, there's a hope that at least some would survive. I remember I got to a point where my main scavenger guy died while out looting. The guy at home who fell sick died because he didn't get the meds I was trying to scavenge with the first guy. The second last character ended up just running off after stealing my supplies, and the last guy I had just fell into a depression and wouldn't move while he slowly starved to death. But then on the third day, I miraculously had a new character arrive at the door to help. The worst is when you show up to an area you're unfamiliar with and don't have the right tool to help someone. But when you come back the next night with the tool, they're already gone, dead. I wish social studies classes assigned that game in high school. Kids should see it's not all cool tanks and speeches. It's people surviving in a hell created by their fellow humans. Wilds, not sure about Destroyed, but definitely a game with a profound emotional impact. Without spoiling, can you attempt to explain how it affected you emotionally? I didn't beat it, got bored of the constant dying and redoing. It doesn't strike me as an emotional game. Let's just say that the ending puts the entire game, as well as our real life, into a whole new perspective. Hands down, one of my favorite endings in a game ever, and I spent days contemplating what I just witnessed. It literally changed my outlook on life during a time where I really needed it. No cap. And the song helps amplify it, I think. Instant chills when Final Voyage starts playing when you're flying through dark bramble for the last time. My friend and I were playing through, and he beat it a little before me. He said that he teared up a little bit at the end. I was thinking to myself, it can't be that bad. Smash cut to me seeing them all play together one last time and violently sobbing. Absolutely. I'm slowly churning through the DLC atom, and I'm super hyped to see if whatever we do on The Stranger affects the song. There's no way to say it without spoiling it. I'll just say it's the only game I've ever played that has had such a profound impact on my life and has actually been life-changing. So it's worth giving another shot if you're up for it. Nice. I'll consider giving it another shot all the way through this time. Best advice I can give if you start getting frustrated with attempting something in it is to attempt something else for a while. Sometimes you simply don't know enough about an area yet. And don't forget about your various tools: scout, signal scope, flashlight, ship log. Forgetting about any makes it much harder to get to the meat of the game. Yeah, you didn't get to the ending. It was an existential and spiritual experience for me. Can't really say much more without spoilers. The first "you are dead if you die after getting the warp core" hit me the most. I freaked out when that happened. I thought it was permadeath then. Thankfully, I was wrong and could continue. I just rolled credits and all I can say is wow. The DLC is different, but just as great, IMO. I did not enjoy the DLC and found it nowhere near the base game in terms of quality, not even remotely, but many people do enjoy it. I only say this to prevent people from getting their expectations too high about the DLC. The base game is a legitimate contender for greatest game ever made. I can't think of another game where the gameplay, themes, story, music, and characters, all of which were already awesome, all mesh together and become something so profoundly greater than the sum of their parts during that final stretch and ending. Happy to see this so high up in the thread. It really is a one-of-a-kind experience. I tried to play this game a few weeks ago, got a few hours in, and honestly hated it. All I hear are good things about the game, but it is not for me. A lot of the best things about the game are later in the game, and a lot of the things that fill you with a sense of wonder are missed if you die before you see them. Curious what things you didn't see before you quit, but I don't want to publicly get an answer because spoilers. I also had to start the game twice before I started enjoying it, but I'll say that I had much more fun enjoying discovering the story and what was actually happening than enjoying the ending itself. If uncovering secrets about the story and experiencing existential crises don't do anything for you, this might not be your game. Life is Strange. Yeah, both LES 1 and LES 2 endings made me cry. I'm struggling getting into 2. I've tried a few times, but it doesn't hook me like the first did. They're very different and focus on different relationship dynamics. I eventually liked 2 quite a bit and got invested, but only once I accepted it's not supposed to elicit the same emotions as the original. Bailed on 3 because it never hooked me, period. Life is Strange 2 wrecked me from beginning to end, probably more so than any other game. Amen. I got the ending where Sean gets out of prison after doing 15 years. Daniel stayed on the path of a regular citizen and kept his powers hidden. Sean and Daniel go on a camping trip together, and Sean breaks down crying after everything he's been through. Only this time, Daniel comforts him just like Sean used to do for Daniel when he was a boy. Life is Strange 2 ending where Sean and Daniel go on a camping trip after Sean gets done doing 15 years destroyed me. Seeing Sean break down crying after all he's been through, and this time Daniel comforts him just like Sean used to do for Daniel. Life is Strange was really weird for me because I got this strong feeling of nostalgia, like it was some memory of going to college in the US from another life. After a while, I had to put the game down because I couldn't handle the feeling of loss. Never experienced anything like it before or after, really. Looks like someone needs to check out Omori. That's a game that will deliver the feelings of loss and then happily proceed to twist the knife. In the same world, The Awesome Adventures of Captain Spirit was pretty devastating. I hadn't played any of the Life is Strange games at that point, and it made me take the dive in. Both of these, especially LES 2, had me sobbing. While I was playing the bonus episode, Max and Chloe at Chloe's house, I didn't realize that it took place on that day. About halfway through, I made the connection and ugly cried for a while before I could continue. That game had no business being that emotional. I've done like 5 or 6 runs of it, and it's always like the first time. I've only played Before the Storm in the original, but I cried during both of them. Finished it last month. Song at the end of Sacrifice wrote still rings in my heart. Bay over bay, and it fucking destroys me every time I play. The graphic novel series is pretty good too. I still wonder sometimes if I made the right choices. You can't save everyone, Max. Such an eerie game, that ending made me upset too. Upset at how awfully plotted and told the whole story is. Ugh. I couldn't care less about characters that are so whinny and stereotypical. I hope teenagers in the US aren't really like that. But at the same time, that would explain a lot. Telltale Walking Dead Season 1 with Lee and Clementine. The ending is probably the only part in my life where I cried because of the game. Man, I picked the hair short line at the end, and I still suffer. I can't remember what I picked at the end, but I sure hella know I cried like a bitch. Cyberpunk more so the DLC. Same here. The DLC is one of my favorite story experiences in gaming easily. How is this not the top answer? That game is literally a modern soap opera of tragedy. Poor Songbird. Same. When I was done, I felt like the game and Night City were empty, but I still wanted there to be more. Absolutely. Haven't quite finished the DLC yet, but the original game's ending got me at the time.